lockdown world, or if we're post, is just this accommodation for like, yep, my home internet sometimes goes out. Sometimes my work internet goes out, right? Like they're just, feels like everybody has bigger things to worry about these days than.
And it always goes out April 15th. Always.
Yeah. Oh, of course. That's called Murphy's Law. I know all about that. Yes. Cool. I'm going to take my glasses off so that I don't get the reflection. And so this is Susanne Mariga. She's written the wonderful book, Profit First for Minority Business Enterprises. I don't think that I can possibly do justice to all of the things that you do. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself with, kind of what you do and who you serve. And then we'll jump into it.
Well, my name is Susanne Mariga. I am a certified public accountant by background. I've been a CPA for over 20 years. I've stopped counting. I had several years with the big four accounting firms. And when I had my daughter, later went out on my own. And today we service small to mid-sized businesses. We do a lot with the strategic tax planning with high net worth individuals that have implemented Profit First. And, one of the issues that happens when you're being intentional about your results is you get what you want, right? You actually get those results. And so, the next thing that we do is tax strategy in order to, also help them be profitable by saving on taxes. So increase profits through tax strategy. And that's a little bit about what I do. And as Ed mentioned, I am the author of that lovely book. Not that one. That's that one.
That one. Yeah, no, you had it.
It's kind of backwards, right?
Fortunately,
the pink lady on it.
Yeah.
Profit First for Minority Business Enterprises.
Yep. And so, you and I have discussed before, the reason that I am so enamored of your book is because it tells a different story than Mike's. And for me, most traditional money books and, business books have been written by men, which is, there have been some great books out there, right? E-Myth, Profit First, Traction, the list goes on, Good to Great, or whatever the one by Gay Hendricks is. And
The Big Leap, I think.
The Big Leap. Thank you. Yes. I'm like, I know that's not right. But it's one side of the story. And it's not only one side of the story because they all have had their different adventures, but most of them have come from a very corporate background. And that's not my story. That's not my background. And I know that you did go through the big four, but the book brings so much more mindset, so much more, what are the things that you're going to come up against as you begin to become more profitable and grow in your family, in your community, in yourself. And I just think that for anyone who's not going the startup route, especially, that book serves far more industries than just minority business enterprises. So yeah. And of course, right, you do the piece that I do not, one of the pieces that I do not, which is that tax planning. So high net worth individuals, tell me more about sort of who your favorite client is and what your favorite thing to do with them is.
So we define high net worth as having that adjusted gross income, AGI, or taxable income above 250,000. So they're normally at that point, they're scaling businesses. They're no longer businesses of one. They've got a few employees under them. Usually typically at least $500,000 in revenue or above. We have clients that are way like into the 50, 30 million tier. And really, they've implemented Profit First. They've done the work and they said, you know what, I want my business to work for me. I want to have I want to see the fruits of my labor, right? Not just keep working and making, what did I say? The average income for $1 million business is about $50,000. I'm like, you probably can get a job making more than that. Yeah. And so they've made a decision to be intentional. And, a lot of times when you go to your CPA, most of them will tell you, what, buy that truck. You can get a Section 179, you can get bonus depreciation. And, they're like, I'm a doctor's office. I don't need a truck. I just like drive around the corner to the hospital and that's about it. And you have to use that truck for 50% for business in order to get that deduction. And, a lot of these accountants are saying, buy filing cabinets at year end. And what's happening is, you're doing all this work to increase your profits, and then you're cutting your ankle at the end of the day. And so we work with our clients on how do you decrease taxes, right? And still build your net worth. So how do you decrease taxes, reduce that taxable income without actually spending that money? How do I build my net worth without doing that? Is what we do with our clients. So we never increase expenses unless you absolutely have to.
Right. It's so odd to me, the resistance to paying taxes, right? Like, as long as you've got the money, cool. And also how many accountants, really experienced accountants that I've worked with that have like, oh, December, write checks to bring your bank balance down to zero. And it's like, well, okay, but the year isn't done. Like, it's done, but there's rent due on January 1st. So if my account's at zero, then what? And it's like not a very holistic view. And I think it's also really interesting, I get asked sometimes, if I have a profit first bookkeeper, do I need a profit first accountant, and vice versa? And I think the answer is you don't need them, right? Like, you don't need a bookkeeper that understands profit first in order to do bookkeeping. But the conversations that you and I can have, on behalf of the business owner are so much more deep, effective, targeted, intentional, et cetera. So I always say, I recommend it.
It works together, right? Ann and I work together. We're sisters in some ways, profit first at the mastery level.
Yeah.
And so, when I see Ann working with you on your goals, I know exactly what she's looking for and what she's doing. And so it creates a more seamless process from that standpoint.
I think the other thing that many bookkeepers don't encourage in their clients is talking to your accountant more than once a year, right? Like, don't just show up at tax time with like, oh, here's all the stuff that happened, and make them be like, oh, I could have done so much had you only, but at least, I think at least quarterly, to check in and just say, are my estimates still on track? Are we still on, what's new in the world of taxes? Because things change surprisingly fast. And just having that person on your side, right? I don't need to sell you on that idea.
Especially the last couple of years. You've got, ERC credit, you had PPP loans happening. You had credits related to COVID, your employees being out. It was like almost every month something new was coming down the pipeline. And so having that relationship with your accountant, and I'll tell you, there's a shortage of CPAs out there now. And there is a difference between the CPA versus the tax preparer in terms of experience, critical thinking. That test is a hard test. Many people don't pass it. So, if you want the best, you're going to want someone that passed that test for your critical strategy from your tax standpoint. And, and it's, you want to have that relationship. You want it to be an ongoing relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. So what is the one thing that you wish that people knew before they showed up on your doorstep?
This is interesting. And businesses, they're at different levels, right? And the thing that I think is the saddest thing is when you get these business owners and they don't know where they're at. Right. They don't know how much money they made, what their revenue was, what their profit is. And it's so sad because it happens every single day. And, they're so stuck on, I don't want to invest the money in a bookkeeper. It's an expense. I can do it myself. And obviously they don't have the skill set to do it. They don't have the time to do it. And as a result, they come in disorganized and unprepared, right? Which at the end of the day costs them more, right? Because somebody has to get their books in order still. It's a lot better to hire someone like Ann in the beginning and just keep, getting it up to date because you're going to have to get it done one way or another. And then second of all, by having those records that is regularly done for you, you're able to peel back and go, what kind of strategy should I be implementing? Not just on December 31st, but throughout the year. How do I anticipate? One of the things in Profit First that we do is we put away 15% for taxes, right? And we hope that we don't spend 15% of our revenue on taxes, but at least that money is there so that when you need it, it's you, when you get that tax bill at the end, congratulations, you had an amazing year, but you're also prepared to pay that tax too after you've implemented a strategy. So that's probably the saddest thing that I see is so many people are not prepared. They're running their business through one bank account and they're wiping it out every month and they're living check by check and they don't have anything to show for it. And they don't have any way of even making decisions because they don't have data to support helping them making those decisions.
Right. Yeah. Because bookkeeping so often isn't set up to get those decisions. Or, I feel like as a bookkeeper, I'm constantly encouraging clients to get me their information so that I can reconcile and give them those reports. So even in the best of circumstances, we're 2 weeks after the fact, sometimes 2 months after the fact. And it's really hard to make decisions with yesterday's news, right?
Oh yeah. And
Oh
they're
yeah.
not catching payroll taxes that are not paid, because they don't have their books being done or they're relying on feeds and they've got negative AR. Um, I'm like, ooh, that's really interesting. Or their credit cards owe them money. That's really funny too. But yeah, definitely just not being prepared.
Yeah. Excellent. And so what is one piece of advice that you would give people as far as um, being prepared with taxes?
Get that team around you, get that team around you. And that team should be making you money at the end of the day, whether it's helping you make decisions, whether it's giving you new strategies, that team should be helping you make money. And so really it's about creating those partnerships and, your business, if you are sacrificing your life to create this business, your business needs to be generating that ROI for you. And you have to build that business to do that.
Yeah. I think also so many of us focus on just the business today and maybe tomorrow without remembering how much we can do with the business in terms of generational wealth, community wealth, right? Like it's not just about, in my opinion, the stabilizing the business and making it work for us is kind of the first ring of the tree. And from there, it should expand out and grow and be supportive of many more people and things.
Definitely. Ed.
Yeah. Cool. So if someone is like, oh, I have not been being strategic about my taxes, I have to talk to Susanne, how do they find you?
So the best way to reach me is, right here. If you guys are watching on LinkedIn, go ahead and click my profile, send me a DM. And that's probably the best way that we can start a conversation.
Great. Sounds good. And we'll make sure to put your info in the notes on the other channels as well.
Thank you,
Super.
Ed.
Any parting thoughts? I mean, my parting thought is thank you so much for joining us. I always love talking to you. I'm super looking forward to seeing you at Mastery Meetup in just a couple of weeks. But
Yeah, isn't it? It's be intentional, figure out your why, figure out the things that you want and backwards algebraically make it happen for yourself. What needs to be true for this to happen? And just start with your why. Start with your why.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on with us today, Susanne. And I'm sure we'll talk again very soon.
Thank you, Anne.
And if you have not yet bought Suzanne's book, it is available everywhere that books are sold. Profit First for Minority Business.